Okay.
Ah,
Shalom
perfect.
Aleichem.
How are you? You doing? All
Very
right.
good.
Good morning, everybody. Where are the Gemaras? I think behind you. Probably passing my Gemara. I think they're behind him. The Gemara. All right. So good morning. Today is Daf Sadi. We are on the bottom. We're by the two dots on the bottom of Pei Testament Bays. But today's Daf Sadi. So bottom line and the way we go. So one goes ahead. You go. Remember, put yourself on mute over there. You go. So fruits, as Rashi explains, they've basically been soaked. The bran has been soaked in water, or barley and soaked in water, and they dry them out in a tanur in an oven, and then only afterwards do they thresh on. So it's not the normal order. Rather, they were soaked and prepared first, and then they thresh it afterwards to go ahead and remove the klipa. So such a case pairs him because of betzvua, and also vadashas b'truma oshkech, vadashas b'truma meiser, one who goes ahead and now goes ahead and does dash, threshes upon something truma meiser. Now, in other words, normally you go ahead and you prepare the grains first, everything is ready to go, it's in its final phase, and then you separate Trumas Maestros. Over here, he said he did the Trumas Maestros basically while they were still raw, and that was before they were threshed upon. So even though that's not when the prohibition of tevel begins, nevertheless, the truma meiser does work. So yes, it does work. So if the animal goes ahead and is dash upon the truma meisers, then both these cases you're allowed to go ahead and muzzle the animal. It doesn't violate the prohibition of muzzling your animal while threshing, because it's threshing for you. It's threshing for this Shumas and Maisers.
They already did it already.
However, because of Marasayin, because people can see people threshing and they don't know the grain is, let's say, Shumas Maisers, so then maybe then they go ahead and they bring a feed bag from whatever it's threshing upon. Then they go ahead and they hang it from its mouth so it can go ahead and eat. So if it's going ahead and it's going upon wheat, it gives it provided wheat, or barley provides the barley. And Rishon ben Yochai, Omer, maybe Karshanim the Taila, Karshanim Yafos La. So he says, no, you know what you do? You're already going ahead and giving it a feed bag. Give it basically this vetch or this type of food that's really the best for the animal, and not necessarily, you don't have to use exactly what the animal's threshing upon. Rather, give something that's good for the animal, and therefore, that's the best way to go ahead and do it. He has a kash. It says we have another price almost identical. It says paros hamar kasais, but animals are going ahead and threshing upon previously soaked grains. So there is no Isra of Baltachsam in this case. Why is that? Because like we said before, this is not your standard threshing. You can't muzzle while threshing, as opposed to after the threshing, the official part of threshing therefore is potter. However, over here this says if one does Truma Meiser, he's Eiver Mishum Baltachsam. So we had earlier, we said Truma Meiser, you're putter from Baltachsam. And over here, you are going to be Chai for Baltachsam. We're going to give multiple answers on this. That's going to be the Kasha. And just finishing out the Brisa. And in Nachri, he goes ahead and he threshes with the cow of a Jew. Even as with his direction, even or there's permission, he does not violate the owner, the Jew does not violate Baltaxam because he wasn't going ahead and threshing with it. However, we saw however, if a Jew goes ahead and uses a cow owned by a Nachri, then he is since he's doing the action of threshing with the animal, he's leading the animal, so therefore he does violate it even though it's not his cow. So the Gemara points out, as I just pointed out previously, so kasha, truma, truba. We have a kasha. The first brisa says Baal Tachsam does not apply by truba, and the second brisa says it does. And the kasha, ma'isa, ma'isa, and also we have a kasha, ma'isa, ma'isa. So bish, loma, truma, truma, loy, kasha. It's okay. You can give it the here. It's in case of why the two brises talking about the case of truma, truma, loy, kasha. Kamba Truma. The first one is actual Truma, it's Hashem's Truma, or the Kohen's rather, but there's Kedusha, and therefore you're allowed to go ahead and muzzle it. The second one is referring to Gedule Truma. If I have something, I separate Truma, and instead of eating it, they're given to the Kohen and he eats it, and I plant it, there's secondary Kedusha, there's Kedusha on this Truma, the growth from Truma. Right, so therefore, since it's only the growths of truma, it's not the actual truma itself. So therefore, it makes sense to say that Baal Tachsim does apply. Ela Meiser Kasha. But Meiser is a stira. So what are you going to say? Let's just give the same answer that we just gave by truma. So like v'chiteva Meiser nami like Kasha kamba Meiser gadol b'Meiser kamba gedulei Meiser. One's referring to the Meiser itself, and the other is referring to that which grows from the Meiser. So wait. Bishlomo gedulei truma. You can answer that. You can give the teretz when it comes to truma. Why? Gedulei meiser. But if you go ahead, when I separate meiser for the levi, and instead of giving the levi meiser, I plant it and it grows. You know what that is called? It's not called gedulei meiser. That's chulin ninu. That is actually chulin, right? So it reverts back to chulin. There is no kedusha in it. It's now we learn in the Mishnah gedulei tevel, the gedulei meiser, sheni chulin, right? The gedulei tevel, gedulei meiser sheni is chulin. One answer is Eloi Kasha. Ha b'maiser rishon, ha b'maiser sheni. In a case of maiser rishon, right, there is no kedusha there, and therefore, since there's no kedusha there, so therefore, then you can't go ahead and muzzle your animal. And ha b'maiser sheni. But in case of maiser sheni, that's the case where you go ahead and you muzzle the animal because once again, it cannot be eaten, especially outside of Yerushalayim. B-boy same, or you can give it another answer. Ha b'maiser sheni. They're both maiser sheni.
Meiser sheni that you plant still retains its kedusha.
Meister, no, that's what we said. That was what we said before, right? That was the case why we couldn't get that answer.
It's been planted.
Right? No, there is no. It's chulin. It's chulin. It's chulin.
Meiser sheni is chulin. Meiser sheni.
Right.
So why can't the animal eat it?
No, so we can't. So it's chulin. So of course you can't muzzle the animal there. That's what we're saying. So we're trying to find a scenario of where you're allowed to be muzzled. That couldn't be one of the teretz, because in the other case, that was the case. But in this case, it's chulin. So Gemara says, no, maybe it's both referring to Ma'aser Sheni, but like Kasha. Ha Rabbi Meir, ha Rabbi Yehuda. One is Rabbi Meir, one is Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to how they view Ma'aser Sheni. And what is that? Ha Rabbi Meir, the Amar Ma'aser Mammon Gavohu. According to Rabbi Meir, Ma'aser Sheni is Mammon Gavohu. It's Hashem's money, i.e., I can't go ahead and marry a woman with it because it's not my money. It's Hashem's money, even though let's say I'm the one who's holding on to it. Nevertheless, it's not. It's Mammon Gavoah. And if it's Mammon Gavoah, then I can't. Then I'm allowed to go ahead and muzzle my animal on it. However, Rabbi Yehuda, but the other case is the case of Rabbi Yehuda. Ma'aser Sheni Mammon Hedyot. Ma'aser Sheni is Mammon Hedyot, and therefore, since it's Mammon Hedyot, therefore I can't go ahead and muzzle my animal. So the Gemara says, "Wait, so what's the case over there? How do you have this with Shuman Ma'aser before? Right? When they went ahead and they separated the Ma'aser before, in other words, before they were separated from the stalks, from the ears. Rabbi Yehuda, so how could you go ahead and allow the animal to go ahead and not muzzle it, right? So even if it's according to Rabbi Yehuda, right? How can you go ahead and not muzzle it? It's Ma'aser Sheni outside Yerushalayim, and then it requires a wall to be eaten. So I mean, not only can a human not eat Ma'aser Sheni outside Yerushalayim, but even the animal is not supposed to. So you're supposed to muzzle it then. So in other words, that there was an outer wall, not Yerushalayim, but there was a place based Pagi, which then they instituted that, even though it technically wasn't Yerushalayim, but nevertheless within there, one would, or at least for sure, an animal would be able to eat within those walls. Or Iboy say Malay Kasha, Kan b'Ma'aser Vadai, Kan b'Ma'aser Demai. In a case of Ma'aser Vadai, then I can muzzle the animal. If it's a Safek Ma'aser Demai, which was basically that you go ahead and you purchase or you acquire from an Amma Aretz, you assume or you don't know if you took Ma'aser or not. So therefore you take Ma'aser again, which is called Ma'aser Demai. So one's a case of Ma'aser Vadai, and therefore it's Hashem's, you can go ahead and muzzle. Another Ma'aser Demai, where you cannot muzzle it. So Hashta. Excuse me. Yeah, right. Well, you cannot. So Hash does is the Hachinai can do this. Shuma Nami. Let's get the same teretz like Kasha Kamba Shumas Vadak Trumas Demai. We'll say in the case of one is the case of Trumas Demai, and therefore it's Vada Hashem, there's Kedusha, and therefore you can go ahead and muzzle it. And the other case is no, it's your own, and therefore you cannot muzzle it. So the Gemara says, wait, Bish, Meiser Demai, Ika. I understand when there's a case of this Meiser Demai. Trumas Demai, but you're saying there's only like if you get a tevel or a produce from a Amaretz, you have to separate Truma. So Miika, is there such thing as Trumas Demai? But Tanya, Brisa, Afu Bitel as a so Afu Bitel as a Vidui, because al Demai. So he also they're Mavato, the Vidui, and there's Yechne Kohen Gadol, and he was Mavato the Vidui that said after years 3 and 6, when they say, we cleared everything out. And also he was Geyser al Demai. He says, Demai, Lafish Shala, Bechol Gvul Yisrael, the Rosh Shalahim, Frishn El Truma Gedelo, Bilvad. So he saw that people never took Meiser Rishon and Meiser Sheni, so there on the second you have to go ahead and take Demai. But he was only said that when it comes to the Meiser, not by Truma, because he saw that everybody took Truma. It was just the other stuff that people didn't take. So Eloi Kasha, Kam Trumas Meiser, Kam Trumas Meiser, Vadai, Kam Trumas Meiser, Demai. No, because we're talking about Trumas Meiser. Now, Trumas Meiser is after the Levi gets his meiser, so he separates a tenth of that, and that gives to the Kohen. That's called Trumas Meiser. So when it's Trumas Meiser for sure, and you go ahead and the animal's threshing upon it, so therefore you go ahead and you're allowed to go ahead and muzzle it. But if it's only suffix whether it was indeed taken from it or not, and therefore maybe it's really owned by the person, doesn't have the level of kedusha. Therefore, certainly one could not go ahead and muzzle the animal. Now we will have a series of geschmacka questions. So by my name and Avsheshes, Haisa Eicheles Umatarezes. Right? One who goes ahead and his animal has a loose stomach, right? It has loose stomach. The animal's diarrhea, right? He's loose Umatarezes. Mahu. Now, if the animal is going ahead and threshing. So do we say Mishum Demalalu? The reason why you normally can't, you're not allowed to go ahead and muzzle animals because it's not healthy for it. But over here in this case, it's healthier to muzzle the animal because he has a stomach ailment, and therefore, if he keeps continuously eating the grain, he's gonna get, the animal's gonna get more sick. Or when we say the mitzara, the reason why the Torah says you have to go ahead and muzzle your animals because when it sees grain and it's working upon it, it can't eat from it, it troubles it. And this animal will also be troubled. It would be emotionally hurt if it wouldn't be able to go ahead and eat the grain that's threshing upon it. Some of Sheshes, Tanisua, we've taught Rabbi Shimon as we saw earlier, maybe Karshana, you go ahead and the animal, right? We said even though you're allowed to go ahead and muzzle it, but we said they're button, go ahead and put a feedback on him. So he said, go ahead and bring some vetch because vetch, that is the healthiest thing for us. So indeed, learn from here that we're trying to do what's in the best interest for the health of the animal, and therefore, if sometimes preventing it from eating would be its healthiest option. I guess it's like the I think it's like it's like not like cabbage, but something. Let's see.
We can also
I think it's produce. I think
we can also do that.
I always type this vet. Let's see what he said. I guess I looked at an article for years. I always thought. It's no Google. I don't know. I'll Google. I have my phone here. Yeah, it's like it's like the equivalent of like hot dogs to meat. All right. So I think it's like small growths that are not necessarily eaten by humans. It's mostly like an animal feed.
It's a flowering plant.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's like a plant.
Yeah.
All right.
You can eat it. You can eat. You can muzzle him if the food's good for him.
Right. Correct. Well, if the food is going to aggravate its stomach. Can a person say to a nachri, go ahead and muzzle my animal, and then go ahead and thresh for me? So do we say when we say that say on Shabbos that he can't hey, go ahead and start this fire for me, or right? Shvut Hanimili Lin Shabbos Isser Skila. Maybe that only comes by Shabbos, right? By Shabbos is Isser Skila. It's very severe. So therefore, it's so severe that even if I tell a Nachri to do something, it's forbidden. However, Chasima, but when it comes to muzzling, the Isser Lav, but maybe with Chasima by muzzling, it's only a Lav. So maybe when a Lav, we're not so severe, and therefore you tell a guy to do it, he can go ahead and do it. Maybe it doesn't make a difference. So Tashma, come listen. Nachri Adash B'Paz Yisrael, Ein Avim Mishum Bal Ta'achsam. So we just saw earlier in the Brisa that Nachi goes ahead and he threshes with the power of Yisrael, even with the Yisrael's direction. The Jew has not the Jew has not violated for having to do it. So yes, he doesn't violate the law, mashma ha'isur, right? But it sounds like it's usher. Now, he hasn't violated the law. He doesn't get malchus. But Lamaisa, it's usher to tell a guy to go ahead and do it. So we see that it does extend. There is a little shlichus when it comes here, just not legabe the isser. So the answer is no. Bedino the nami like maybe it could be that not only is there no isser, there's also there's no isser at all. Right? The I so it's mutter to do it because it's only a lav. It's not isser skila. But I did kind of seifa. But since the seifa wanted to go ahead and teach the Yisrael hadash farsa shel nachi over that Yisrael who muzzles a cow owned by a goy, he violates it. So therefore, Tanaresha. But therefore, the lashon of the Reisha also uses over because in the Seifa uses the lashon of over. So touch about 2 lines from the bottom outside of Aleph. So the Shachlu the Shmuel, they said the father of Shmuel. So how in Turin these oxen de ganvin armei umaragikan yasum. So they go ahead and the Armenians go ahead and I'm going to use this quotation mark, quote unquote, steal the oxen of the Jews, and then they go ahead and castrate them, right? A castrated bull is actually better for threshing and plowing, right? It's better to do the work because I guess, they're more focused. So Mahu. So let's say the guy goes ahead and, oh no, he took my cow or he took my ox and he improved it, right? He castrated and made it better, right? More valuable, better for my work. So obviously I'm pleased with it as the owner of the animal. So, but is there a penalty for me? Maybe we should penalize me for allowing them to go ahead and quote unquote steal it. So Shavlu, Haram Savid Behu, Harami Alayhu. He's done. You know what? They try to do a trick and says, oh no, he stole it from me. And then, oh, he got it back. So we're going to do a trick on him, i.e., if it's your oxen was taken and returned and it was castrated, then you got to go ahead and sell it. So maybe the people in Eretz Yisrael, sorry though, maybe the whole like maybe Alasirus. So what do you see over there, by the way? So in this case,
Bull's an ox.
Castrated bull is an ox, a shore.
Yeah.
Okay.
An ox is
An ox. Okay.
the kids.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let it learn.
All right. Very good. So we say. So maybe the whole like a chidka that says they are mitsuyin al asiros. In other words, v'koever mishum lifnei l'sita misha. Maybe over there, the reason why they were penalized, in other words, where all of a sudden the Goyim are penalized because of Jews, not because they're doing shlichus for the Yisrael by castrating it, right? But maybe because they themselves are violating the Yisr, right? By they're also kind of, therefore, by you giving to them, you have violated lifnei l'sita and nifsha. So So Rava says, you know what? Let's penalize them not only because the animal that's that's worth plowing. Let's say it's $1,000, but if it can't plow, it's a broken leg, and you only sell it for its meat. It's only worth $400. So let's force them to sell for this meat. Somebody says no. It's enough that we make them sell it. So it's a bit of enough of a headache. So therefore, it's no big. We don't demand that they sell it, for meat. So pshita, and now you have to go ahead and sell to somebody else. So pshita b'nai gadol. If he sells it to his son, who is a gadol, he's ready. He's a gadol, moved out of dad's house. That's considered to selling it to somebody else. So b'nai katan mai. But what about his young son who lives in his house? Oh, I have to go ahead and sell my my ox. I'm going to go ahead and sell it to my nice 10-year-old son. So Rav Acha says that's not considered to be somebody else. Rav Ashi Shari, he says no, that's mutter. And Merema Azutra, I guess their neighbors stole their animals, and then they castrated them and they brought them back, obviously without their permission. So they each had to sell to somebody else. Some say some there's two chasidim. They basically just exchanged with one another. That's considered to be acher. So like Sophia, what about I don't muzzle it, right? Muzzle is actually put a muzzle on it. Let's say I put a thorn in the mouth of the animal so it can't eat. Mahu. When it says Hashiva, Chasim Alsi, what are you talking about? That's real muzzling. Okay, so you're using something else to prevent it from eating, but that's muzzling. So Ella, rather, what does it mean? Yashaba Kais Bafia Mahu. Let's say a thorn gets in its mouth, and therefore it has difficulty eating. Now, a normal owner will go ahead and remove the thorn from its mouth. But over here, it did it on its own. So maybe I don't have to do anything, and I can thresh with it, and it can't eat. Well, it's not on me. So Mahu, what on Hebrews? What it does it place a lion outside the field? By the animal won't eat that. So one says Mahu. So Hebrews, if he goes ahead and brings a lion out there, that's muzzling. You're actively muzzling it. So Ella robots la arim b'chutz. Rather, let's say conveniently, a lion went ahead and went by the field, and therefore the animal does not feel comfortable. Do I have to go ahead and chase away the lion so it can go ahead and thresh or plow and be able to go ahead and eat, or can I just leave it as is? Or let's say its calf is outside and therefore it's distracted by its calf and won't eat. What about that case? Or let's say it's very thirsty and it won't really eat until it drinks water. But if I don't give it water, then it won't eat from my fields, which I'll be happy. In other words, because the less it eats, the more I profit. Or let's say I go ahead and I cover up the grain with like a mat, and therefore it doesn't see. It's still stepping on the grains, it's threshing it, but it doesn't see it to eat it. So I'm not muzzling it, I'm just covering it up so the animal can't see what's underneath. So what about that case? So at least one of these answers I have the tiny when the Brisa says Roshai Balabai, Roshai Balapara Lahari Parasa Kadesha. I'm going ahead and renting out my ox. I'm allowed to go ahead and basically not feed it for a while, so it becomes very hungry, and therefore, when the person who goes ahead and hires it to rent it to thresh, is going to basically eat its meal, on his threshing floor, and therefore, I'm saving money. So he is allowed to do it. The owner of the par is allowed to do it, and vice versa. Right. So he right. So he said Roshai Balabai and Roshai Balabai is lahatir pekia omer lifnei behema kadesh lo teichem min adisha. He's allowed to go ahead and basically place straw, right, something cheap for it to eat, upon that which is threshing, i.e., it's blocking its vision from that which is threshing, to go ahead and it's only eating straw. It's not eating from the produce it's doing. So no. So Lamaitza, you're still feeding it. So it's not really a violation of muzzling it from that which is threshing, because Lamaitza, you're giving it straw. Or what it says is he's allowed to go ahead, and if he's going to do my field, I'm going to feed the animal a lot of straw before it goes ahead and threshes on my more expensive wheat. And in the beginning, and therefore, in order that the animal won't be hungry while it's threshing and eat that. So that's what it says. So what about if I muzzle it outside, right, in field A, Ma'u Sharbadisha, and then I go ahead and bring it to field B to thresh over there. But I didn't muzzle it in its threshing area. I muzzled it outside. So do we say Shabadisha Marachmana Vahala Badisha? Do we say that you can't muzzle the ox, right, right, the ox in its, or the bull, right, in its threshing floor, Vahala Badisha, and I didn't do Badisha, I did it before Badisha. Or maybe it means that do not thresh while being muzzled. That's what the Torah means. Telling me they actually learned from your father's house. Why? What did we learn over there? It says So it says wine and any alcohol. Right, do not drink when you enter into the temple by Aaron and the Kohanim. So in other words, when you enter, then you can't drink. But drink before. Right now, so you can't go inside and drink inside. But what if I go ahead and I pregame? So it sounds like it would be mutter, maybe. Well, and what's the purpose that the pasuk says? Lahavdil ben a kodesh ben a chol. We want the kohanim to be able to differentiate between kodesh and chol. Amar. So therefore, it's telling you not the whole issue is not the fact that I'm disrespecting the temple by drinking in there. The fact is that I'm not cognizant because I'm drunk. So even when entering, you can't go ahead and be shikered up. So over here, while it's threshing, it cannot be muzzled. So even if it's muzzled before, and then starts to work, nevertheless, it's considered to be threshing while being muzzled. And one who goes ahead and he muzzles the animal, but then doesn't do anything. Then his hands off. You go ahead and thresh with it. I only cover the animal. I only muzzle it. Or a mazig the kilaim, or he hooks up two different species to a plow, which is considered to be kilaim of animals. You can't go ahead and mix plow two different animals. So I only hooked them up to the plow, but I didn't go ahead and lead it. So pater, such a person, he just does the muzzling or the hooking up to the plow, he's pater. Only the person who does the actual disha, the threshing, and the person who does the actual leading of the directing of the plow, only those people are violated. So what about this? Let's say I muzzle it with my voice. Every time it bends its head down and says, right? I distract the animal so he doesn't go ahead and eat, right? Or if I cause it to plow by yelling at it, right? I say, move, right, walk, and the animal plows. So I didn't physically do anything. I'm just sitting in a chair, drinking a Bud Light, yelling at the animal. So Rabbi Yechon says, that's considered to be muzzling and leading. And Rabbi Shlakish says, Pater. Rabbi Yechon, why I must be having ma'isa? Because moving my mouth is considered to be a mice, and therefore my mice has caused it to be muzzled, or my mice has caused it to be led, and therefore I'm chayiv. And Rabbi Shlakish says, you're Pater. Why? So kol loy having mice, because your voice is not a mice, and therefore it's not a lav. Right, it's a lav shem b'mais, and therefore the person would not be chayiv for. And we will stop here.
Okay.
Everybody have a wonderful day, and Hashem, we'll see everybody tomorrow.
What's the other thing?